Welcome back, and today we'll be talking about the Indian caste system. So first, let's discuss the background of the caste system. So it's one of the oldest surviving systems in the world that divided people into different groups. They were divided based on their karma, which is their work, and their dharma. Dharma normally means religion, but in this context it means duty. This system is more than 3,000 years old, and it divided Hindus into four groups: the Brahmins, which were your priests and your teachers; the Kshatriyas, which were your warriors and rulers; the Vaishyas, the farmers, traders, and merchants; and the Shudras, which were the laborers. These groups, or castes, were further divided into subsections depending on their jobs. So there was a group outside of the system, and these were called the Dalits, or also known as the untouchables. These were the outcasts and were street sweepers and toilet cleaners. For a long time, this system dictated almost every aspect of Hindu religious and social life. For example, different castes would live in different places. They couldn't share the same water wells or other resources. The higher castes wouldn't even accept food or water from the lower group, and you couldn't marry outside of your caste. This is regarded as an unjust system because it trapped people into certain castes, and higher castes got privileges that the lower castes didn't. It was difficult to move outside of your caste because you couldn't marry outside of it, and you were expected to stay within the same caste for your entire life. Your last name was also commonly seen as a way to identify which caste you were in. However, until the 18th century, this system wasn't that important, and people could freely move amongst the groups. It was actually the British colonial rulers that made the system so important and created these hard boundaries. They did this because it helped them when they were doing their census reports and simplified it. Census reports are basically reports that the government makes on the population. The Constitution now bans discrimination based on the caste system and has introduced job quotas. This basically means that there needs to be a certain amount or percentage of lower caste members in places like the government or in certain high-profile jobs. Although I previously mentioned that the Dalits, also known as the untouchables, existed outside of the system, another group that existed outside were the tribes, also known as the Adivasis, and both of these groups have suffered back then and even today due to it. So what are the effects of this system? Technically, the system has been removed with India's independence in 1947, but its deep roots in Indian history makes it difficult to truly remove from social life. So many people question whether discrimination based on the system truly exists. The reason they question it is because legally the system has been removed. This is because the Constitution, which is the laws of India, specifies in Article 17 that historically underprivileged castes like the Dalits and the tribes will be legally protected. There are also laws that exist to protect them, such as the Untouchability Offences Act in 1955 and the Prevention of Atrocities Act of 1989. Keep in mind that while the system has been removed, because people's last names are associated with certain groups, it's easy to identify someone's caste, even if the system no longer exists. Discrimination based on the caste system is still very common today and is on the rise. The discrimination often moves into violence against those from lower castes. In fact, the number of reported crimes against the Dalits and Adivasis has risen from 13,975 in 2013 to 47,064 in 2014. So you can see that these crimes are increasing at a rapid rate. The conviction rate for these crimes, basically the amount of people that get punished against the Dalit and Adivasis in 2013, was 16.9%. This is low considering that the conviction rate for all crimes is 40.2%. So what's the impact of this discrimination? If we look at the social aspect, as previously mentioned, due to the discrimination, there's a lot of violence that happens against the lower caste members. There is also underrepresentation from lower castes in the government because they're regarded as not good enough to be in the government. This limited voice in politics makes it difficult to take steps against discrimination as there's a lack of representation. The government has included job quotas to make sure that there is still some representation, but it isn't enough. This also affects people's marriage opportunities. People in India are very traditional when it comes to marriage, and they prefer that marriage follows the caste system and people don't marry outside of their caste system. This means that, for example, when the elites marry women of higher castes, there are cases where the family of the woman has resorted to murder, violence, or even ostracizing the groom. If we look at the economic aspect, in higher education, the elite students make up only 11% of the class, despite making up 16.6% of the population. To go further, 84% of them are asked about their caste, which leads to reduced interaction and negative treatment. This shows that people are still very biased against lower castes, and when teachers find out that their students are from these lower castes, while technically the system doesn't exist, they still tend to discriminate against them and not give them the same opportunities they afford to higher caste students. This also reflects in jobs where lower castes earn 28.5% less in the private sector. You would assume that because the system legally does not exist, in the public sector, which are government jobs, there would be no wage gap. But even in the private sector, lower castes earn 19.4% less, which means that the elites and other lower castes will always be underprivileged because they're never able to earn as much as higher castes. And as you can see, although the caste system has technically not existed for many years, its effects are still there because it's such an important part. It's such a traditional part of Indian culture that the effects are still there. And although the government has been trying to help lower castes and fix the mistakes of the past through actions such as job quotas, not enough has been done, and not all of their measures have been effective. Thank you.